Tag TV and Tag Radio be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. A who's who of tech leaders and pioneers. It connects thought leaders, executives of Fortune 500 companies, investors, government, civic leaders, service providers, and entrepreneurs. It has a broad cross-section of over 30 societies representing nearly every discipline imaginable. An advocate for positive public policy change, it works with government leaders developing and enacting legislation. It supports economic development efforts throughout the state by partnering with city, regional, and state chambers of commerce and other growth-oriented organizations. It promotes Georgia technology companies and people across the state, the nation, and the world. Once a fledgling organization in 1999, today the Technology Association of Georgia has emerged as a world-class membership organization with a mission to promote, educate, influence, and unite Georgia's technology community. Greetings, everyone. It's January 2014, a new year, a new world of technology, and the introduction of the Technology Association of Georgia's new Chairman of the Board for 2014 and a special exclusive Tag Radio Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. To many, he is well known and recognized as a longtime leader in the international, national, and local technology industry, a dedicated, leading visionary and volunteer mentoring TAG's amazing and rapid ascension to national prominence. To others, he will be known as the Technology Association of Georgia's new board leader for the coming year. Meet Patrick D. Gaul. Patrick has had a distinguished career with an exceptional record of management performance and achievements. He has an extensive international experience and has developed strong multicultural abilities through working, living, and traveling around the globe. A Marine at 17, in 9 years he would distinguish himself with numerous awards and citations: the Order of the Purple Heart, the Combat Action Medal, Meritorious Unit Citation, Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry, the National Defense Service Medal for his service in the Republic of South Vietnam. In 1976, Patrick joined AT&T, where he would spend the next 22 years. In operations and engineering, he transitioned into the AT&T sales organization, progressed rapidly from account executive to national account executive. By '83, he was transferred to AT&T's prestigious Sales and Marketing Education Center, achieving 6 certifications. By '85, he launched into an international career, starting in Tokyo, building AT&T sales presence in Japan and the Far East. After 5 years in Tokyo, he moved to West Midlands of England, where he joined AT&T Estelle as the first American executive at the recent AT&T acquisition. Progressing from AT&T's Estelle to AT&T Business Communication Europe and ultimately its Unisource Communication Services, he continued to serve in various sales and channel management leadership roles, eventually moving to the Netherlands in '07, where he joined AT&T's WorldSource team, acting as the primary European interface for that brand. By '98, he left AT&T and joined Infonet Services Corporation as the Director of Sales for EMEA, rapidly promoted to the position of Vice President and General Manager of EMEA. He managed operating units across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. After a successful $1 billion IPO in 2000, Patrick took a sabbatical and attended the Edinburgh Graduate School of Business. In 2002, he joined Via Networks, Incorporated, as the Vice President of Sales Operations, where he drove sales production, implemented and training sales forces across 9 country units. By '03, Patrick had accepted the position of President and General Manager of Via Networks U.S. operations and moved to Atlanta, Georgia. Patrick left Via in '06 after it was acquired by a British firm. Over the past 6 years, he's operated as an independent consulting, acting as VP of Operation for Telscom USA, an Israeli software quality assurance firm based in Atlanta. In '08, he joined Market Force Information as on an interim basis, and after 6 months, accepted the position of Senior Vice President of Sales. Under Patrick's leadership, the sales grew consistently year over year. By late 2011, he returned to private consulting and began advising Safety Lock, and in early 2012 joined the firm as the Vice President of Sales for the Americas in July 2012. A special Tech Talk exclusive as Tino proudly introduces to our TAG members and to all interested and concerned about Georgia's future global competitiveness in the new economy, the 2014 Chairman of the Board of Directors for the Technology Association of Georgia, Patrick D. Gaul. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions.
Patrick, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk today.
Thank you for having me.
It's going to be a pleasure having you as my new chairman of the board, and I know you've come a long way since the beginning of involvement with TAG, and we'll get a little bit later to that question. But I think it'll be good for our listening audience to know who our chairman of the board is, and maybe a little bit about your background. So bring that to life for us.
Well, as you know, I've spent a lot of time living around the world. It's oddly enough, the subject of how I got to Atlanta came up this past weekend in a conversation with a friend of mine. We were enjoying a glass of wine, and he casually asked me how I managed to find myself in Atlanta after living overseas for nearly 20 years. And as I explained, it really was a matter of being in the right place at the right time. I was winding up a position in the Netherlands with a company called Via Networks when one afternoon the CEO and the CIO sat down with me and asked how I felt about Atlanta. And at the time, Atlanta was headquarters for our U.S. operations. And I initially thought they were asking me what I thought about the Atlanta office from an operational perspective. But the conversation quickly shifted to how I felt about Atlanta as a place to live. And that's when I learned that they planned on making a leadership change and were actually asking me if I'd like to move to Atlanta and take over U.S. operations. And it all happened very rapidly. Within 2 weeks, I landed in Atlanta with the CEO, and the next morning I assumed the leadership role of Via Networks USA. That was in September of 2003. The operation was sold in 2005 to a British company. In 2006, I left as part of a major reorganization. My wife and I debated briefly returning to Europe, but we decided to remain in Atlanta as we had children in school, young children at the time, and we felt very much at home here today.
Well, it's good to have you here, and I remember back in the day when we were first sitting in a coffee shop talking about a role with TAG. Talk a little bit about how you did get involved with TAG.
Well, again, I met with a business associate. Of course, I was still relatively new. This was early 2004, and he suggested I had to meet this bright new personality in Atlanta named Tino Mantella. And as you remember, you're right. We hooked up and got together at the Landmark Diner in Buckhead one morning for breakfast. And I remember you giving me an overview of TAG and what you envisioned for the organization going forward. And in fairness, TAG wasn't nearly the organization then that it is today. But you impressed me, and my instincts told me I wanted to help you make TAG the organization you envisioned it could be someday. And I think that conversation led to a small sponsorship. I think it was around $5,000. And then, of course, that led to me becoming an individual member of TAG. And I was also able to help out a bit with web hosting and web design, which were both immediate needs at the time, which allowed me to have more contact with you and the team that was emerging here at TAG. And then I continued to do some support work for TAG, especially around the web design. And then I think in late 2005, you asked me to join the board of directors. And then, as you do, you asked me to take on a role with a committee. One of the first things you ask every new board member to do is to take on a role, and I ended up becoming the chair for the 2006 Georgia Technology Summit, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I enjoyed it so much I volunteered to chair the 2007, and as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, that was back in the day. So you started about a year after I came on board. So 9th year, and of course, the summit, we're going to be celebrating our the 10th year of that event, March 26th of 2014. But you've had your hands on a lot of different aspects of TAG and made many contributions along the way and helped to make us what we are today. What would you say are the things that have been most important to you? What's captured your attention over the course of those 8 years with TAG?
Well, I've served on a lot of different task force and committees over the last 8+ years, but I have two major interests, and the first is the Georgia Technology Summit, which, as you just noted, will celebrate the 10th anniversary next spring. And I'll put a plug in for that. Our 2014 theme is Innovation Connections, celebrating a decade and beyond. And as I mentioned earlier, I've chaired the committee twice, and I've served on the committee ever since 2007. And it has become not only the premier event in Georgia, but I think it's rapidly become a nationally recognized event. We've presented some of the most recognized speakers around the world. We've had Tom Friedman, Ray Kurzweil, the futurist Don Tapscott, Ted Turner, Chris Anderson, editor of Wired Magazine, Chris Klaus. That's just to mention a few. So I'm very, very involved with that, and will continue to be involved with that. And my second love is the Georgia Awareness Committee, and I'm well into my third year serving on that committee. Our goal is to significantly raise the awareness of Georgia as a top technology state nationally. We want everyone to understand why Georgia is an attractive state to either start a business or to relocate a business or to keep your business here. There are over 250,000 technologists and over 13,000 technology companies in Georgia. And interestingly, the industry had a $113 billion economic impact on the state of Georgia. That's about 17% of the state's economy, and the Georgia Awareness Committee is working hard to ensure that all these facts are verified, they're published, and they're made known nationally. So while I have served on other committees, the Public Affairs Task Force and other task force and committees, these two are really where my heart is, is closest, and the two I enjoy spending most of my time with.
Well, and it's interesting that a whole awareness piece, a few years ago, TAG, in discussion with the board, realized that we really didn't have anyone, public or privately, stepping up to say, we need to promote Georgia as a leading technology state. And we hired our first director of public relations back then. I think you might have even helped with that process. And since then, we've been measuring media impressions as one of the elements, ways that we can determine how we're faring in respect to getting the word out. It's great that we crossed the billion media impression mark in 2013, which has I think really started to make a difference in terms of the calls that we get, inbound calls from different parts of the country and even around the world saying, geez, there's a lot happening in Georgia. So, yeah, that is a key committee, and we're really just on the early stages of making a significant impact on that one. So I appreciate your help on that, Patrick.
You're welcome.
So in terms of, we'll shift gears a little bit. So we talked about some of the things that are important to you and how you got to the point that you're at today in respect to TAG and your career. And so one of the things that you've been a great supporter of and consistent with is sponsorship. And, as TAG's grown its membership from, I think, 1,500 when you and I first started together to now almost 22,000, riding parallel to that is the sponsorships that we've been able to secure, which has been exciting, and it shows that people and organizations really support the cause, and there's other reasons as well. So let me ask you, as a consistent sponsor, what are those things that have meant a lot to you in respect to your decisions over the years of becoming a sponsor and maintaining that sponsorship, even increasing it over the years?
Well, I think first and foremost, I see sponsoring TAG as a community commitment. I'm part of the Georgia technology community, and TAG is the principal representative of the technology community, both in Georgia and outside of Georgia. And as you noted, it's now, I don't think you've said this, but it's actually the largest technology association in the United States. Like you said, over 22,000 members, 33 societies, and they represent every facet of technology from human resources to product management. And as you know, our sponsors allow us to do the work we need to do to ensure we continue to build the association and have the impact on the key issues that most affect the technology community in the state of Georgia. So in effect, sponsoring TAG is an investment in the future of the technology community in the state. It's essentially an investment in us, and then it's tax deductible, of course. And there are other benefits, including the recognition that TAG provides to its sponsors through various media. You just talked about the number of impressions that we've got in the past year, and I know we want to maintain that goal in 2014 of getting at least 1 billion media impressions. There's the sponsorship recognition on the website. And of course, it doesn't hurt when you're trying to sell to a TAG member company if you're a TAG sponsor. But it goes back to me, from my own personal perspective, goes back to being part of the community and supporting the technology community in Georgia, and that's why I've been so keen to make sure that I've either personally sponsored or the companies I've worked with have sponsored over the last 8 or 9 years.
Well, we appreciate that. And one of the things from the TAG side that people would not see externally necessarily, but they'd see it in the outcomes, is that sponsorship revenue along with the membership revenue allows us to continue to increase our impact in terms of how we want to make sure that Georgia is moving forward and becoming a top 5 state for technology. So we're able to add this full-time legislative position and the full-time PR position and do research each year. And a lot of that is due to those sponsorship dollars. So it really does help make a contribution back to the community through the support of TAG. Well, we're near out of time, but I think one final important question. You're following a long line of great board chairs, and I know that you will continue along those same lines in respect to the kind of impact that you'll make and the credibility that you'll give in partnership with the TAG staff and the rest of the board and the Leadership Council. But you have a few things in mind that you'd like to see us accomplish in 2014.
I do, and there, obviously there are multiple objectives already laid out, and some are tactical, i.e. the number of media impressions, and some are very strategic. And for me personally, I have 3 goals. And first is I want to work with the board to push the Georgia legislature to fund Invest Georgia, at least to the minimum goal of $10 million, but more ideally to a much larger fund so that we can truly impact early-stage companies in Georgia. Too many investment dollars, as you know, Tino, come from outside the state, and that can ultimately impact where that business sets up its final residence. We want to keep our talented businesses in Georgia, and to do that, we need to invest in those businesses. So I'm a big supporter of Invest Georgia, and be working with the board and you to see if we can influence that a great deal this year. And my second goal would be to see a growth in the awareness of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and the need for middle school and high school students to participate in experiential learning activities. We require our children to take 2 years of a foreign language, but we don't require any programming skills. So why can't we also require every high school student to take 2 years of programming, especially when you look at the large number of available technology positions in Georgia today, and they're all wrapped around specific programming skills that are absent. So I'm going to be pushing very hard to see us continue to work in that area. And finally, I want to be seen as an ambassador for TAG across the state. We have TAG chapters in Augusta, Athens, Savannah, Columbus, and Middle Georgia. And we are the Technology Association of Georgia, not Atlanta. So I want to get to know our various chapters and work with them to ensure their ideas and talents are incorporated in the TAG strategic plan and everything we do this year. I'm really excited to be taking on this role, especially given the talented executives who currently sit on the TAG Board of Directors. I also know that Don Addington is not going to be an easy act to follow, but it's an honor to have been asked, and I hope to make everybody proud.
Well, Patrick, thanks for stepping up. It's not an easy thing with all the other things people have going on and you have going on in your lives to say you'll chair the important Technology Association of Georgia Board. So we appreciate that and look forward to working with you in partnership to move Georgia onward and upward to be a top 5 state for technology. Thanks for joining me on Tech Talk today.
Thank you very much.